أعوذ بالله من شر الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most gracious. And peace and blessings be upon the Prophet Muhammad and his family, their creators and their provisions. And may the curse of Allah be upon their enemies forever. Today, this video today, is I'm going to do a little bit of comparison between the two religions. Again, we need to clarify this. Now, as a disclaimer, beginning of this video, let me just explain that this is not to target or create hatred against the Sunni community as people. I am not here to create hate against any group, none whatsoever. Muslim, Jewish, Christian, atheist, agnostic, we are all people and we all deserve to live. If we are not, and like my beloved Imam Ali, peace and blessings, said, his famous say, and I love to add this to my disclaimer, he said to Malik bin al-Harith, O Malik, love everyone and show compassion, for people are either your brothers in religion or your equals in creation. So this is not about to create hate. This is to discuss knowledgeable, scientific proof with what the sources of the Sunni religion has in their own, the religion has in its own books. So we are here to discuss those, to discuss them with knowledge and to discuss them with wisdom. Let me start first with the very first narration from Al-Bukhari that says, I was commanded to fight the people until they say there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, and if they do so, then I will no longer be able to kill them. Their blood becomes non-touchable. Now imagine this. You're sitting in your living room, sipping your tea, scrolling through your phone, and suddenly your neighbor barges in with a sword and says, hey, I've been commanded to fight until you declare the password. And then you say, you ask, what password? Password for what? And then he says, you have to say there is no God but Allah. That's the password. That's right, according to Sahih al-Bukhari and Muslim, the Prophet of the Sunni, tradition declares, I was commanded to fight the people until they say there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Not to invite the people. It's not an invitation to say it. It's not like, hey, let's sit down and let's convince you. No. It's either you say it or you die. No teaching. It's not a matter of, teaching this knowledge to you, not even convince you. No, it's fight the people until, they say the magic word. Let's pause here for a moment, because if this were a stand-up comedy routine, I'd say, ladies and gentlemen, apparently apparently faith is just like a Wi-Fi. You don't need conviction, you just need the right password. The logic, the logic of it, say it or die, is on a professional level. Let's analyze the structure of the narration, what it essentially says. Violence is the method, confession is the condition, hypocrisy is the result. Because who wants to die, right? I mean, if somebody comes with a sword and says, hey, I'm about to kill you unless you say there's no God but Allah. Okay, there is no God but Allah. But did they say it from the bottom of their heart? No. So it's like you have to be, it's an oppression. Because if someone puts a sword on your neck and says, say there is no God or I'll cut your throat, what are you going to say? You'll say it. Even if in your heart you don't believe it. Even if 5 minutes ago you were worshipping a pineapple statue in your backyard, the sword doesn't care. The sword just wants the words. So let's picture this in real life. A man named John. He's worshipping his dog, Rex. He loves Rex. He offers Rex milk and biscuits every morning. Along comes the Sunni prophet with a sword and says, John, either you say there is no God but Allah, or Rex is going to watch you lose your head. John naturally says there is no God but Allah. And now, congratulations, John. John has protected his life and property. But here's the catch. Did John actually believe? Of course not. John is still secretly praying to Rex when no one is looking. But the narration says his blood is spared. So if John stops praying to Rex and says, I'm now praying to God, to Allah, of course, now, do remember this, I'm talking about the Sunni God, Sunni Prophet. I'm not talking about the Shia Prophet. The Shia Prophet. The Sunni Prophet. Down here. Shia Prophet. Can't even put my head up. It's gonna break my neck. That's how high the Shia Prophet is. So, what's the value of faith if it's born from fear? What's the value of faith if fear is its method, not love? What kind of religion is this, where belief is measured not in sincerity, in how fast you can recite a sentence before your neck is sliced? This is not religion, this is extortion with holy branding. The hypocrisy, the hypocrisy, we can call it the hypocrisy factory. Let's call the narration what it is, a hypocrisy factory. Because if the measure of being saved is merely uttering a phrase and a duress, then you're not creating believers. You're manufacturing liars. You're forcing tongues, not convincing hearts. You, as a Sunni Muslim, you need to think about this. You need to sit down with yourself and think. And you need to search. That's very important. Many of you, I know that probably once they start watching this video, the best part is to just flip through and go to another video when they can watch a dog jumping so high and that's going to make you laugh. That's up to you, but you do remember this, you do have a judgment day. You will be asked. And you will be asked, honestly, you will be asked about flipping this video. Why did you give it a blind eye? Why didn't you listen? It's like having a constitution that says freedom of speech is sacred, but then the police arrest you for opening your mouth. Contradiction is the nicest word we can use here. They do claim, don't they? I mean, I'm pretty sure you've heard the Sunnis will tell you, no, religion is freedom. Religion gives you the freedom, gives you life. It is beautiful. It is most beautiful religion ever to the Prophet. The Prophet married a 6-year-old. Shh! Shut up, or you die. What freedom is this? I mean, literally, this religion is not even does not even accept to be criticized. I mean, if your religion does not accept criticism, you know something's wrong with your religion. Because one thing religion must accept before people can join it is criticism. That's how they understand things, because there are many misconceptions, right? That's what you say, Sunnis. There are many misconceptions about the Sunnis. The Prophet didn't say go and kill people for nothing. That's not misconception, that's reality. It exists. The comedy of the contradiction. Let's laugh for a second. Imagine if this was applied today. You're driving to work and you get pulled over by the cops. The officer comes up, doesn't ask for your license, doesn't ask for your insurance. Instead, he says, say there is no God but Allah, or step outside of the car. And if you hesitate, that's it. Your life and property are forfeit. Would anyone call this justice? Would anyone call this morality? No, would call it insanity. And yet this is what the most authentic Sunni books record as the words of their prophet. You see, the humor writes itself because it's absurd. Now, if we get into the historical implications, let's get serious again. Because this narration wasn't just a theoretical statement, it became a political engine. The early caliph, so-called Khulafa al-Rashidin, they say. Khulafa al-Rashidin means that they are true caliphates. They give you the true religion. They're it's almost like saying they're sinless. Khulafa al-Rashidin. This Khulafa, so-called the Rashidin, which they're talking about the first three ones, the presidents, the leaders, and we will get to that, and hopefully I'm going to make a video and I'm going to show you how actually the narrations of the Prophet got corrupted until, and how the family of the Prophet Muhammad saved those narrations. There's a long story there. A lot of politics is involved in it, dirty games. Anyway, so the early caliphs, they were called the Khulafa Rashidin, the almost sinless caliphates, took the narration and used it to justify endless wars. Like, for example, Abu Bakr started the war of Ridda. The Ridda wars against tribes and simply didn't want to pay taxes. But was the actual aim the taxes? Was it because they didn't pay taxes we should go and attack them and kill them? Now, hey, let me clarify something here. I'm talking about the Sunni religion, not the Shia religion. In the Shia religion, you pay taxes, you don't pay taxes, you don't get killed. There's no law that says go kill someone because they're not paying their taxes. And I will show you this from narrations from the family of the Prophet. But in the Sunni religion, if you don't pay taxes, oh, war. Takbir, Allah Akbar, and they go and kill you. The expansions into Persia, Byzantium, North Africa, all justified under the banner of the Prophet commanded us to fight until people submit. They invaded countries. Let me ask here, let's pause for a minute and ask any Sunni out there. Your narrations say attack. right? Your narrations say attack and kill people. As a Sunni Muslim, you were raised up that your religion is a religion of peace. What do you say to this? Sit with yourself and just think about it. If God promises peace on one hand, and on the other, he says, go and invade countries until they submit, become Muslims. Where is the peace in that? You need to think. You need to think. You need to start making sense, because this doesn't make sense. You want to go tell people that your religion commands you to go and force families to become Muslims or they die? And then on the other hand, you say, but wait, my religion is a religion of peace. You've got to see the contradiction. You've got to see the hypocrisy. So what do we see? Religion becomes empire. Faith becomes taxation. The Shahada means the witnesses. You know, they say there is no God but Allah, Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. They call that Shahada. As in, you have witnessed that you have become a Muslim. They call that Shahada. So the Shahada becomes a toll. You pay to keep your neck attached. You know, Sunni responses, of course, when you bring this up to a Sunni scholar, they will try to spin it. They'll say, no, 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 this was only against the pagans of the Arabia. This was about self-defense, they will say. Really? Then why does the hadith say, I was commanded to fight the people, not the specific pagans and the specific time? See, in the Arabic language, we have what we call open hadith and closed hadith. This is in the science of hadith. In the science of hadith, when the Prophet says a hadith, there is what they call open command, closed command. Open command means the command is public. Command is permanent. It's to everybody and it's to all times, every time, all periods of time. Closed hadith is a hadith specifically for a time and place or for a certain group of people. An exceptional hadith for this person or this people or this time, etc. But the hadith itself will actually say that. It will say whether it is open or closed. It won't say it's an open hadith, etc., etc. No. It's going to say, for example, the Prophet is talking about that person. The Prophet is talking about those people. The Prophet is talking about this time. That makes the hadith closed because it specifies either group of people, time, or singular person. But when the hadith like this one here we have that says, I was commanded to fight people until they say there is no God but Allah, that's an open hadith. There is no timing said here. There are no groups of people said here. There is no one person or two persons said in this hadith. The hadith says it all people. So it's from the beginning of time to Judgment Day. I was commanded to fight people until they submit, until they become Muslims. So you can't. So these scholars that try to play these stupid games, you can't play games with me. You can probably play games with the Westerners. You can play games with the Europeans because they're poor people. They don't know this realities and these laws and rules about hadith. Whereas with me, you can't. You cannot play me. You know why? You know why you can't play me? Because I am the God of the Sunnah. I am. I'm more knowledgeable than your God of Sunnah. Honestly, I am. I'm more knowledgeable than your Prophet. Your Prophet was illiterate. I am not. I am not illiterate. I could read and write from when I was a little young boy, whereas your Prophet grew up to be 50 years old man and he was stupid. You would tell him, what is this ABCD? I don't know. What is that? Can you teach me? So when, Sunnis today try to backpedal, it's too late. The contradiction is curved in history. You know, a satirical twist, and excuse my pronunciation, my English is not my main language. Let's put it in modern terms. Imagine if a politician today said, I was commanded to fight people until they vote for me. Yeah? Imagine a politician comes on TV and says, I was commanded to fight the people until they vote for me. You'd laugh him out of the room. You say, that's not democracy, that's dictatorship. I'm talking about you Sunnis. I'm not talking about Westerners. I'm not talking about Jewish and Christians and atheists and agnostics. I'm talking to you. You clerks, you Sunnis, anyone out there now listening to this. I'm talking to you. What would your reaction be if a politician came on TV today and says, I was commanded to fight people until they vote for me? What would be your reaction? The first thing you will say, look at this lunatic. Well, what are you talking about? This is terrorism in every way. Now replace vote for me with say the Shahada. Simply just remove that word and instead put Shahada. I was commanded to fight people until they say the Shahada. Now think about that. And you've got the Sunni narration, a theological dictatorship. And the absurdity is so clear, you can't help but laugh. You've got to think about it like this. Now, since, like I said, I'm a Shia and I'm talking about the Sunni Prophet, peace be upon him, that's how they say it. The Sunnis, there's one thing I want to clearly say about this. When they say Sallam, peace be upon him, they're not even saying it in respect. But but do remember this. If they speak about Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Aisha, Hafsa, Hind, al-Hakam, all their companions, and when they're about to say that thing about that, they say peace be upon them, for example, they will say it very slowly and very carefully. When they talk about their prophet, they'll say peace be upon him. In Arabic, it's sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. They don't mention alihi because they hate the family of the Prophet. They hate the family of the Prophet with passion. Yet, they'll speak to you, they'll say, no, 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 that's not true. We love the family of the Prophet. No, you don't. It's not true, not even a little bit. Can we prove that? Inshallah, we will. But when they speak of their Prophet, they will say, the Prophet, peace be upon him, peace be, pay attention to their videos. Just pay attention how they say it. Every time they mention their Prophet, the Prophet, peace be upon him, but when they say, for example, Abu Bakr, they will say, radiyallahu anhu wa ardahu. They'll say it very slowly, very carefully, very professionally. And yet they're supposed to respect the Prophet and probably disrespect, not probably, surely they should disrespect Umar. But I mean in the Sunni thought. They shouldn't pay too much attention to how they say it to Umar Abu Bakr. They should pay more attention to how they say it to the Prophet. But it's the other way around. This religion has nothing that is going the right path. Nothing. Now, going back to the subject, let's put that in contrast with the family of the Prophet. And this is where the difference Shia tradition is night and day, if you like. You know, the family of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon them, never said fight the people until they submit. In fact, Imam Ali famously said, people are of two types, either your brother in faith or your equal in humanity. Even when I say it, I feel my hair is, wow, that is most beautiful thing to say ever. It is the most beautiful thing to say. Let me repeat that because of just how beautiful it is. It makes you feel heartwarm, you know, it makes you feel comfortable. It makes you feel that, yes, this is the religion I want. I'm talking about myself. My mic keeps dropping. Anyway, so let me repeat this one more time. Imam Ali, peace and blessings be upon him, said, people are of two types, either your brother in faith or your equal in humanity. Now, put that in contrast with, I was commanded to fight all people until they say there is no God but Allah. I will kill you or you say it. You can see the differences how Imam Ali looks at the people who are non-Muslims and how the Prophet of the Sunnah, and by the way, Imam Ali is the second successor, second leader after the Prophet Muhammad. But you can already tell Abu Bakr, the one who started the wars of Ridda, to collect the taxes. By the way, that's a false excuse. That is a fake excuse. Now, I don't want to get into, you know, I don't want to get into showing proof to everything I say online because that's going to take a lot of time by, you know, narrating the hadith, searching for it, etc. But Abu Bakr, he started the wars, he called them the wars of Ridda, but were they the wars of Ridda? Ridda means that Ridda means that if you leave Islam, you must be killed, you must be executed. So they called it the wars of Ridda. Why he called it the wars of Ridda? Because people refuse to pay taxes. Because if you refuse to pay taxes, apparently you're considered non-Muslim. Now, you put that, you compare that, even though there is no comparison, none whatsoever, you compare that to Imam Ali, the one who says, people are of two types, either your brother in religion or your equal in humanity. You can see the difference. One narration commands fighting and submission, and the other commands recognizing equality until respect. One turns neighbors into enemies, the other turns enemies into potential brother. That's not a small that's what's the word? That's a chasm. That's the gap between hypocrisy and sincerity, between compulsion and conviction, between empire and faith. So The Sunni narration says, I was commanded to fight people until they say there is no God but Allah. You know, we expose the hypocrisy. You know, it's historical misuse. Um, and then we contrasted that with the words of the family of the Prophet. And in the conclusion, this narration does not produce faith; it produces fear. It's terrorism. It does not create believers. It creates hypocrisy. It does not represent religion. It represents conquest. Let me get the second narration that I want to talk about. Now buckle up for this narration. Second narration of the Sunni. Because for this one, we're not talking about a prophet who came with mercy, or a prophet who came with wisdom. No. According to Sunni narrations, the prophet comes to us like a character out of a medieval video game. I have been sent with a sword until Allah alone is worshipped. That is the narration. I have been sent with the sword until Allah alone is worshipped. You know, not sent with the Quran. I mean, you could say, I was sent with the Quran until Allah alone is worshipped. How beautiful that would be. Okay, we might, some people might say, hey, but the Quran says this, the Quran says that. No problem. That would be a verbal discussion, criticism, etc. But the problem here is the narration itself. What did you come to the people with? A book or a sword? Does you do you Sunnis hear what I am saying to you? Did the Prophet come with a book or a sword? It doesn't say I came with the Quran until everybody worships Allah alone. No, it says I came with a sword until Allah alone is worshipped, which means either you worship God or do you see that this is the main ideology. This is the religion of not just there's no such thing as radical Islamists, by the way. There's no such thing. Hamas, ISIS, what they call those guys in Afghanistan, Taliban. These guys are literally this religion, Sunni religion. So don't ever laugh at yourself or let anyone laugh at you or fool you to say, hey, those are radical Islamists. The true religion doesn't actually say that. No, it's not true. No, not even a little bit. I have been sent with a sword until Allah alone is worshipped. He didn't say I was sent with the Quran. He didn't say I was sent with love. He didn't even say I was sent with a pamphlet. No, he said I was sent with a sword. So the first one is the first point that we talked about is a hypocrisy factory. Like we explained it, it's literally a hypocrisy factory. But the second narration, this one, is not a hypocrisy factory. It's literally weapon dealership. It's a weapon dealership. He came with a sword. Hey, this is the weapon that you must use now. Because the first one says, I came to fight with people, to fight against people until they. So someone might ask, our beloved Prophet, Sallam, and how do we fight people? He will then say, oh, but don't worry, I have a second narration for this one, and it's, I came with a sword. So there you go, you have your weapon. So now you know how you are commanded to go and fight people. So it's a weapons dealership because, the entire mission of prophethood is reduced to a blade. I mean, imagine the scenario. Okay, picture this. It's the 7th century, the desert is hot, people are busy with their camels, their dates, their little markets. Then suddenly the prophet appears, you know. You'd expect him to say something uplifting like, oh, people, let's talk about unity, justice, and mercy. But no, instead, introduction is, hey, everyone, I was sent with a sword, and I won't stop until you worship my God. Imagine that politician we go back to, who is on the TV and says, I am commanded to fight everyone until you vote for me. And for that, and then he grabs an AK-47 under the table and he clocks it in and he says, I was sent with this to fight you. what would you think? A lunatic. Who let this crazy lowlife out of the mentally disabled hospital? Who let him out? This is exactly what your prophet is. He's mentally disabled, except in the older histories we didn't have hospitals, so I don't know where he ran out from. God have mercy on those people back then. Can you imagine the reaction? The crowd looks around nervously. Someone whispers, wait, so it's either Allah or the blade? Another one says, well, I guess I love Allah now. Praise to be. What was his name again? Right? What else would you do? I mean, somebody's coming to you with a sword and says, hey, out of nowhere, you're all gathering in a group, and you're having drinks, you're having fun, and some people are dancing, and some people are having fun, and then somebody walks in and says, hey, everyone, I am here. I am here to, I am here with a gun to, walks into this crowded, non-armed group with a gun and says, hey, I'm here with this gun until you worship my God or else. Do you think people in this party will say, go F your God? No, they will say, oh, please, let's start worshiping. You see, this is not a da'wah, yeah? And many of you Sunnis will say, da'wah, da'wah, da'wah to Islamic religion. Da'wah means that they call people into Islam. Da'wah, right? So this is not a da'wah. It's not a teaching. It's not faith. It's intimidation marketing. It's a business marketing, and the logo is a sword. Would you put it anywhere, any other than that? It's a marketing, and the logo is a sword. I mean, let's put it in modern business terms. Every brand has a logo. Nike has the swoosh. Apple has the the beaten apple. McDonald's has that golden arches or arches. What they call it? Arches? You know. And according to the narration, what's the logo of Islam? It's not the mosque. No, don't fool yourself. It's not the Quran. Don't fool yourself. It's the sword. The logo of the Islamic Sunni religion of the Prophet of the Sunnah Salam is the sword. Can you imagine? Can you imagine flag outside the mosque isn't the crescent moon? It's a giant blade. The welcome mat doesn't say peace be upon you. It says sharpen before entry. That is your Islamic religion. That is Sunni Islamic religion. It's terror. It's terrorism in every word. It's a branding faith as a weapon. Faith through fear. But let's go deeper. Why the sword? Why not the argument? Why not the miracle? Why not the compassion? Because this narration makes faith a matter of fear, not freedom. It suggests that the only way people will worship Allah is if they're threatened with steel. It is. It's a threatening with steel. And you know what? Here's the irony. If faith comes from fear, then it's not faith. It's submission not to God, but to the one holding the sword. Yeah. Because as long as there is a sword and it says, I am going to use this or else you become a Muslim, you're not creating people who will love your religion. In fact, you're creating enemies to your own religion. And in that case, the whole world. Now, just like point one, the narration wasn't left on a shelf. It was used. It became a theological justification for centuries of conquest. You see, in the early times of the Caliphism, of the early Umayyads and the Abbasids, they needed to conquer cities and they needed to invade. They needed money, they needed power, they needed women, they needed etc., etc. Now, the true religion of Ahlul Bayt, of the family of the Prophet, will not allow them that, will actually forbid them, and there are even consequences. I mean serious consequences against people who go and kill people, innocent people. There are serious consequences in the narrations of the family of the Prophet. There are serious consequences if you terrorize the people. Because, like I said earlier in this video, in this live, Imam Ali, peace and blessings be upon him, said, there are two types of people, either your brother in religion or your equal in creation. That's it. That's how Ahlul Bayt look at the people. They don't look at them as non-Muslim, you must become with a sword. No, it's up to you. You have to be convinced. And one thing Ahlul Bayt accepted, and accepted it with open heart, is criticism. Unlike your religion. So, again, this wasn't left on the shelf in the back of, you know, in the back of your library and it has dust on it and it's not being used. I mean, I'm talking about the narrations. I was commanded to go fight people, etc. And I came with a sword. This was not left unused. No, this was used from those times and until today. Every time there is somebody in power, like Hamas, like Al-Qaeda, like ISIS and all the rest, they use such narrations to justify their actions against other beliefs. They need these narrations. It works for their advantage. The armies that you know the armies that swept into Persia, Byzantium, Egypt, Africa, even Spain, all justified themselves with this hadith. We are carrying out the mission. The Prophet came with a sword until all worship Allah, the God of the Sunnah. And with love and with the bottom of my heart, I say to the Sunni Prophet and his God, may my shoes be upon you. My shoes be upon your God, your Prophet, your books, all of it. I have absolute zero respect for such God and such Prophet. May my shoes be upon them. Now, let's let's laugh at how Sunni scholars try to spin this. I'll show you how they play these games. They'll say, it doesn't mean the Prophet really came with a sword. It means the sword was sometimes necessary for um, defense, or better saying it, protection, like they say it, of course. So the sword wasn't there because they wanted to attack people. No, the sword was there because they were poor, they were innocent people, they don't harm people. I mean, come on, the Jewish people attack them, and what do they do in return? Nothing. They don't go out and say death to all Jewish people and their children and their women. They don't say that. Come on. They don't say death to all Jewish and hopefully we can kill them. There were no two nurses recently who worked in one Australian hospital, and by chance, by coincidence, they had this app they use, random people that they meet in this app, and they start a chit chat. And so these two Palestinians, they had a, a, a random meeting with a Jewish person. They didn't know him, he didn't know them, and guess what they said? They said it, and they got exposed throughout the Australian media, and they got trial too. They went to trial. They lost their jobs, and I hope they'll never get jobs ever. I hope they get deported from Australia. I really hope so. In fact, for me, although putting them in Australian prisons forever, for as long as they can, that thing I don't like for one reason, because Australia then has to spend money on those terrorists, feeding them, clothing, drinking, eating, etc., beds and all the rest of it, bathrooms, cleaning, all the rest of it. So they have to look after these terrorists like they're living in a five-star hotel, because the Westerner infidels, the kuffar, they are oppressors when it comes to prisoning. The kuffar, the infidels, the unbelievers, the ones who you chant every day, death to them, but you do sit in their countries. You see the hypocrisy that they're chanting death to the Jewish, yet they are working in a Jewish-made hospital, probably. I wouldn't be surprised that the owner of the hospital is probably a Jew who pays them weekly wages, and yet they chant, "Death to Israel!" Boss, I didn't get my pay this week. That's hypocrisy. That is the hypocrisy of the. But is that the Sunnis? No. Are they chanting that? So anyway, these two people, they spoke to this Israeli guy before I forget, because I move into other topics, sometimes I just forget. So they spoke to this Israeli person, and they said to him, and they were chatting and chatting, and guess what they said to him? They said, look, if we get a Jewish person, sick Jewish person who will come to our hospital, we will make sure he dies, they said. We will make sure we will kill them. An innocent human being. Just because his faith is something that you hate, so you have to kill that person. How, what kind of humans are you if you think like that? Your job, your employment, your job is to save human life. And you agreed to it, and you signed a contract on the day before you know that this hospital, all sorts of different people go in there, different cultures, different religions, different uh, uh, ethnicities. And yet they said to this Jewish guy, and they actually said that they actually killed people, poor Jewish families, poor Jewish families. It really, really hurt my heart. It really did. Because one of the things that I was thinking about is, imagine this, and I know this might hurt you really bad, but I want to show you just how criminal these people are. Imagine, put it this way, imagine a family with their little baby child who got sick, they're Jewish. They went to the hospital. They want their child. Say he's 5, 6, 10 years old, and he's Jewish. I pray to God that they never had the chance to deal with any Jewish children. These two in particular. But this is what they said, and they admitted it to the people, to the public. They said it. Search it on YouTube, you will find it. Two Palestinians who work in a hospital in, I think they were in Sydney, I think, and they admitted, they said we killed people just because they were Jewish. So they will say it's not that the Prophet really wants to use the sword, but he'd rather use a protection, like defense. So we say in response to that, we say, really? Then why does the narration literally say, I was sent with a sword? That's the mission statement. Not sent with the Quran or something, or, sometimes had to defend himself. Not sent. No, it's not sent. Not sent with the love, sent with a sword. It's like if someone told you, I was sent with a calculator until people learn math. Would you interpret that as sometimes uh, he used the calculator defensively? No, you'd understand that the calculator was centerpiece of his mission. It's a the if somebody says I came with this method until everybody learns this method, you will know that this method is the actual weapon to learn something or to, well, in this case, it's not about learning, of course, it's about terrorizing. So this pin doesn't work. Don't try it. It's gonna fail. You're gonna fail. You're gonna fail miserably. Again, we go back to this method, which is closed hadith, open hadith. Is the hadith closed or is it open? It's an open hadith. Means publicly to everybody, to every time, to every day, to all people. I was sent with a sword until all people, not a group of people, not a time set. No, all people worship Allah alone. Again, let's bring this to modern times. Imagine, let me think of a good example. Imagine a new motivational speaker comes to town. Everyone gathers, in the hall. They're all excited. They're all excited to hear the words of wisdom, you know. The man walks on stage. Instead of microphone, he pulls out a machete. And then he says, I've been sent with this, and I won't stop until you all buy my self-help book. Let me repeat the example. A little bit different. You were told that there is a sales, cheap sale is going to happen about some book that's going to teach you something. You're some sort of interested to know what this book is all about. You're interested, but you don't have the intention to buy it. Some people even go there with empty pockets. They don't even have the money for it. They just want to listen what the book is all about. It's like you're bored sitting home. You are bored sitting home. Um, you're bored sitting home and you think to yourself, you know what, I'm going to go to this gathering to see what this book is all about. Don't have any money, I'm broke, but who cares? Probably I'll see my friends there, probably we'll have a good chit chat, probably free food, free drinks, who knows, right? And then you all go there, you sit in the gathering, this man comes on stage, and instead of pulling out a book to talk about it, he pulls out an AK-47 and he points it at the whole gathering. He says, you listen here, you better buy that book or else. And I will not stop shooting until all of you buy the books. Those who came with empty pockets are effed. Now you have to borrow money from anyone to save your life. Or not just that, maybe they will give you a debt thing, that they'll give you the book and you are in debt now. A book that you will never open, never read, not even interested in. A book that you actually now hate to even read. Why? Because the way it was presented to you. It was presented with force. Come read it or else. That's your religion. That's the religion of the Sunni. I was commanded to fight people until they say there is no God but Allah. I came with a sword until all people worship Allah. That is, where do these two narrations come from? They come from the most authentic book, and that is the book of Al-Bukhari. You need to search for those hadiths. You need to go and check them for yourself. You need to go ask your clerks in the mosques. You need to go and do your research. Now let's go back to the real Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam versus the Prophet of the sword sallam. Now compare the Shia tradition. Imam Ali says, again, this is Imam Ali, by Allah, if I were given all the lands and what is under the heavens in exchange of disobeying Allah, in taking a grain of barley from an ant, of barley from an ant, I would not do it. Oh my God. Do you see the beauty of this? Imam Ali is teaching us respect and love. Do not harm others. Imam Ali is saying this. Let me explain it. If all human beings, if all governments on planet Earth, if everybody gathers to me and says, to Imam Ali, and says, we're going to give you money, we're going to give you power, we're going to give you gold, we're going to give you whatever you want, name it, we will give you. Just, you know how sometimes the ants, they walk and they are holding little bit of tiny pieces, that they walk around with this. This is their food, right? Imam Ali says, if the whole world offers me everything from gold and power and money and says to me, just pick that little piece of thing from that ant, just take it. Just oppress that ant. An ant Just oppress it. Just scare it. Just show it fear. Just show it that you are more powerful than it is. An ant. What does Imam Ali say? I will never do it. I will never do it. See, do you see the difference? The Shia Imam says, I will not even take a grain unjustly. A grain, a grain, a grain. I will not, I will not take a grain unjustly. If this grain is not mine, I'm not taking it. The Sunni narration says, I was sent with a sword until everybody submits. So I will take what's yours, and more than just a grain. One emphasizes justice so deep, it respects even an ant. One emphasizes justice so beautiful, so deep, so loving, so compassionate, it even respects an ant. The other reduces justice to blade-backed comforty, one nature's morality, the other manufactures empire. The comedy of the empire, it gets very funny. Because history proves the point. If the Prophet was sent with a sword, then apparently his followers were sent with a whole arsenal: swords, spears, catapults, um, battering rams. It's as if, as if early caliphs were running a military supply company. Faith by the blade, expansion by the sledge, taxation by whip. Tell me, is this a religion or a corporation with violence as a business model? And then one blames me and says, but why do you say shoes on their prophet and shoes on their God? This, because of this, it's a religion of terrorism. You know what? There's also a refuge in hypocrisy. The narration ends up protecting hypocrisy, just like the previous one, because as soon as someone says, "Fine, fine, I worship Allah," the sword is shattered. But does that mean they believe? Of course not. It only means they've found a quick way to keep their head on their shoulders. So this narration doesn't build believers, it actually builds survivors. People who parrot the word to avoid the blade, and that's not faith, that's survival instinct. If anyone comes to you today, if anyone comes to me now, puts a gun to my head and says, give up Islam and become atheist, with all with all heart, I'm all in, no worries, I'm atheist. From this point on, count me in. A gun is in my head. What am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to? I'm supposed to give him the finger? I'm dead. If someone says, puts a sword on my neck and says, hey, say there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, Takbir, Allah Akbar, stuff like that, I'll be saying, yeah, sure, sure. There is no God, what was it? Why? Because I'm afraid I want to save my life. That's what any human would do. I mean, if you can't see the reality of behind what I'm saying, if you want to go, if you want to blind your eyes, that just means you're weak. You're afraid. And no weak human being will face reality, not the weak one. Only the strong one can. That's a fact. If you're strong enough, you're willing to face it. No matter how harsh it is, no matter if it is against you or not. If you really want fair religion, if you want to follow a fair religion, that is one thing you have as an obligation in your life, is to search for the truth. Every human has that choice. Every human has that opportunity. Don't lie to yourself by saying, I'm too busy, I'm working day and night, I don't have time. Bullshit. You have time. Make time. It's an important thing in your life. There's an upcoming judgment day. You need to ask yourself this question. What if I am wrong? What if there is judgment day? Since I brought this topic, let me give you a long story short. What happened in face-to-face when a person faced Imam Sadiq, one of my Imams, one of my 12 Imams. He was an atheist, he didn't believe. So he faced Imam Sadiq, he sat with Imam Sadiq, and this is exactly what Imam Sadiq said. Look, I'm giving you just the main phrase of this whole story to, to, to explain to you what I just said about make time, search. Anyway, so this atheist was sitting with Imam Sadiq, and he says, and Imam Sadiq says to him, did you know that we are a win-win, it's for us, a win-lose, it's for you? The man says, what do you mean? I don't understand. How is it a win-win for you, a win-lose for me? Imam Sadiq says, if there is judgment day coming, and we are Muslims, we believed, we prayed to God, we did our fasting, Ramadan, etc. We did all the stuff that we must do as we are commanded by Allah. We did them. We die, we go judgment day, we get judged, etc. We go heavens after that. So it's a win for us. And it's a win for us again if there is no judgment day, even though we are Muslims, we prayed, we fasted Ramadan, etc. We win at the end. Why? Because we did it anyway. There's no lose for us either way. But it's a win-lose for you. And he says, and how is that? And Imam Sadiq, peace and blessings be upon him, said, because if there is no God, it's a win for you. You didn't pray, you didn't fast, you didn't have to waste your time with stuff like that, right? Because there's no God at the end, so it's a waste of time. So you die, there's no judgment day, you didn't lose anything. But you lose if there is judgment day. then you didn't pray, you didn't believe, you didn't do anything. So, not just waste, you didn't waste time praying, you wasted time not praying. So, when I say go and search and do your thing, it's an obligation. You have to. It's part of life. You need to do that. Just to be sure, just to sleep the night tight. You need to search. But that's the thing, that's another thing. Another thing is you just cannot stop searching. Because somebody might say, but when do we stop searching? You don't. Until you die, you don't stop searching. Even if you become, say, for me, I'm a Shia Muslim. For me, this is the best Islamic religion ever. No religion can defeat it. No religion. And I challenge anyone to defeat my religion, and I'm open to criticism. Hey, I'm open to insult my God, insult my Prophet, insult my Imams, insult if you want to, do it. Insult them. I'm free. I won't be offended. But is the insulting the part where you prove that the religion is wrong, or is it the actual religion that you have to show me the corruption of it? That's wrong. It's not. You can insult any religion all you want all day long. You can insult God all day all you want out of ignorance, out of not knowing. Just because you hate the ideology of God, you can insult. Okay, no worries. Do it. You're a free person. You can say and do anything you want. I believe in freedom of speech, even though many countries and laws will disagree with me. I believe in freedom of speech. I believe that you are allowed to insult any religion on planet Earth if you think that religion is a corruption, low-life piece of shit. But is the insulting the actual, is that going to help you to escape judgment? No. It's wisdom, knowledge. That's what's going to help you. Because on Judgment Day, when you stand in front of Allah, the Shia Allah, the true Allah, and we will talk about the differences between the Sunni God and the Shia God. And not just I challenge the whole world about my religion, I challenge anyone to have a God like mine. And this is deep. Oh, I mean, this is deep. Let me give you a small example of what I am challenging. All gods of all religion on planet Earth are creators, physically. My God, he didn't need to. He does not need physics. He does not need, not physics, sorry, physical. He doesn't need physical action to create. Because if he needs it, well, that's a problem for me. That is a needing God. See, why I would never believe in any other God, and I despise any other God that actually creates things himself. To me, that's not a God. That's just a broken ideology of a God who needs to do something. Whereas my God, when I searched into the family of the Prophet, I found that the God of the family of the Prophet Muhammad is needless, literally speaking. And that includes creation. He didn't need to do it himself. He does not need. We will get to that, inshallah. I will make a very special video about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's going to be a very long video, probably a lot more than even 2 hours. I think a bit more than that. Maybe I can shorten it up, I'm not sure, but I will make a video showing you the true God, the true Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, let's go back to our discussion, and we are now at point 3. We are into the third point. Just let me. Okay. So, we all know the comforting phrase, God is the provider. You work hard, you plant the seed, you water the soil, you trust that the rain and the sun will come by mercy of the Almighty. That's the traditional belief, right? Everyone believes that. I mean, I'm speaking about people who believe in God. But in the Sunni narration, things take a dramatic twist. Instead of saying, my provision is Allah's mercy, or with honest labor, all people believe that you go work, you do your job, and God will provide. Because you did your part of the job, and the rest is God. He will provide as well. But in the Sunni religion, it's not slightly different, it's actually huge difference there in that part. Because the Prophet said, and this is from Sahih al-Bukhari, my provision was placed for me under the shadow of my spear. My provision was placed for me under the shadow of my spear. So my providing, my reward, my getting something is literally under the shadow of my spear, not in the hands of the God Almighty. No, it's under the shadow of my spear. Another terrorizing statement. So how does the Prophet earn his money, earn his wealth, earn his food? Maybe even get women? No, maybe for sure, because he was a womanizer. How? Under the shadow of the spear. But in the Sunni narration, uh, you know, in the Sunni narrations, this is in the Sunni narration, anything authentic is not acceptable to be denied. You can't deny it. So, according to the Sunni narration, it's under the shadow of the spear, of my spear. It's not with the prayer, not with the effort, not with the patience, but with a weapon. It's all about the weapon. Like I said, the logo of this is Sunni Islamic religion, is not the moon, and no, it's the sword. Or in this case, we can replace it with a spear. Same thing, really. So if our very first point was, you know, um, hypocrisy factory, and then our second point was weapon dealership, remember? So we have now hypocrisy factory, point 1. Point 2, we have weapon dealership. What do you think the third point this should be? Um, the looting supermarket. Because in the narration, provision isn't about working or trusting in God. It's about waving a spear over someone else's property until it becomes yours. So you go invade it, that's your provision. Let me put this for you in a scene. Let's picture this like a movie scene. The Prophet sits down with the companions. They ask, O Messenger, how do you receive your sustenance? You'd expect something spiritual, something uplifting, through prayer, through patience, through trust in Allah, right? That's what you would expect. But instead, the answer is, my provision is under my spear, under the shadow of my spear. So the companions nod. They look at each other. They realize, oh, that means dinner tonight depends on whose village we're going to raid. Who needs farming when you can just point a spear? Who needs honest trade when you can just plunder? Coriolanus. In the modern world, we call this armed robbery. We don't call it the shadow of the spear, we literally call it armed robbery. But in the Sunni narration, it's provision. Armed robbery, provision in the belief of the Sunni, the Prophet. May the biggest shoe be on his head, with peace and blessings. Now, think about the implications. If your provisions are under your spear, what happens the day you don't trade? If your provision is under the spear, what do you think will happen when you don't go and invade others and attack others and create fear in other people's hearts? What happens? You don't eat. Your children are hungry. You don't have electricity. You don't have water. You haven't paid your bills. Because it's time for you to stand up, get your spear, and start going out there. You know, your Sunni loving wife will come to you and say, hey, move your ass, stand up and grab that spear and go get us some food. Go scare those infidels. Go threaten them and scare them and make their life a horror movie so we can eat and drink and pay our bills. See, the narration transformed religion from path of spirituality into business model. Because if you think about it, spear here is not a weapon, it's a paycheck. It's a paycheck. It's how you live your life. It's, you know, an economy of blood. What's an economy of blood? On the professional level, historically, this became the foundation of economy of conquest. Armies marched not because of divine revelation, but because spoils of war. Spoils of war, filled their pockets. Villages were burned, not for spreading justice, but because of the what? Yeah, provision of the prophet, provision of the prophet and his companions under the shadow of the spear. And when provisions come through bloodshed, the faith turns into a business of empire. Religion becomes war, and then war becomes economy, and economy becomes survival. You know, in the modern uh, satirical twist, imagine this applies today. You are at a job interview, and the manager asks, "So where do you see yourself in say 5 years?" You pull out a spear and say, "My provision is under this." Imagine you sit in an interview and, "Oh, where do you see yourself in 5 years?" "My provision is this." Or imagine going to the Centrelink in Australia, since I'm in Australia. The officer asks, "Do you have any income?" And your reply is, "Yes, my provision is under the shadow of my spear." See, Centrelink here is very strict about working. You should go and get a job. Oh, I can easily get a job now. Oh, if my job networking ever calls me up and says, "Are you working?" Yeah. Um, um, uh, what is your employment? The shadow of my spear. that, that's where I'm employed at the moment. And hey, I can tell you, it's an easy paying job. They probably refer you to a therapist before they approve your payments. You you need attention. You need medical. You need urgent medical attention. Well, that's what the Prophet needed, though. Wouldn't you agree? The Sunni Prophet, he needed urgent medical attention. Let me bring the Quran into this, from the Sunni sources, of course. Um, it is, okay, wait, I think I got the wrong verses here. Um, okay, I'm going to pass the Quran for now. So let me think, what would be a good example again of the spear? Just maybe make two, three more examples. See, imagine the spear at the ATM. Think of the spear as this ancient ATMs. Whenever you need money, you don't insert a card. You just insert the spear into your neighbor's chest. Out comes provision. Isn't that the ideology? I know this was a bit too harsh to say of an example. I think it was a bit of a harsh example, but it's actually a very sad example, this one. And then suddenly the message of faith turns into financial scam. Instead of, trading, farming, instead of doing honest work, the narration glorifies robbery under divine branding. Now it's time again to compare this to the Shia again, because every point that I will make, I will compare it to the Shia. Now, if you put this into a contrast with the Shia, Imam Ali, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Wealth is diminished by spending, except when spent in the way of Allah. Then it grows." Wealth is diminished by spending, except when you spend in the way of Allah. Then it grows. Now, do not think here spear and under the shadow, because that's the religion of the Sunnah. Terror and killing. And the spending of Allah here, Imam Ali, one of the greatest things that Imam Ali got famous about is Imam Ali was one of his very famous nicknames that he went by was, and he earned that nickname because of the way he did, because of his actions in his life, and that is the father, they called him, I think, the father, if I remember correctly. Um, the father of the orphans, they called him. The father of the orphans. There were many orphans children in his time, and what did Imam Ali do during his lifetime? He used to feed them. He used to feed them. He used to look after them. He used to look after their comfort. Imam Ali earned one of his biggest nicknames is the father of the orphans. So when Imam Ali here is saying in the way of Allah, what he's saying is go and spend the money helping other people, and then Allah will give you more. Because when you help others, Allah helps you. That's the teaching of the family of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not the teaching of this lunatic, warmongering prophet, Sallam, may shoes and sandals be upon him. But it is the true teaching of this prophet and his family. Peace and blessings be upon them until judgment day. And the curse be upon their enemies until judgment day. Or forever, to be more accurate. Let me bring up my fourth. Um, um, I won't be long. I'm just bringing up this one. It's not coming up. Just a second. Okay, I got it. Now, this hadith, this narration, the narration says, I was given victory through terror. This is according to the narration of Bukhari, the authentic Bukhari, and the authentic Muslim, two most authentic books after the Quran, they say. So, if someone today stood on a stage and introduced themselves with the line, Hi, I'm Bob. Nice to meet you. I was given victory through terror. The police would be in the room before he could finish his tea. Because that does sound like a terrorist threatening, scaring, fearing attitude. I was given victory with terror. But, in the most authentic books, the Sunni collections, this is not only acceptable, it's celebrated. Sunnis celebrate this. Oh, bravo, Prophet, bravo. Our beautiful, loving Prophet, passion, merciful, pay attention, merciful Prophet was given victory through terror, through fear, through scare, through intimidation. If we get into this terror tool, let's let's um, let's do a little role play. Imagine the Prophet as a CEO giving a TED talk. He walks on stage, adjusts the mic, and says, Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to share my leadership secret. Some people use motivation, some people use inspiration. Me, I use terror. Works every time. The audience, the audience claps nervously. One guy in the back whispers, Did he just say terror? Another says, Yeah, but don't worry, it's probably just a metaphor. I don't think he actually meant that. You Sunnis, imagine a president comes on TV in a country that you live in And then he says to the people, he says, I am going to, I am going to uh, set new rules, new laws, and I will apply them with terror to gain obedience, victory. You would be thinking, isn't that dictatorship? This guy is crazy. What is he talking about? You Sunnis would reject it. You would reject it and you would philosophize it and you would speak about it like where is the mercy in this? But when it is your prophet that says it, I was given victory with terror. Yeah, takbir, takbir. It's literal. The hadith says his victory wasn't through arguments, a miracle, wisdom, it was through terror. Fear itself became a weapon. Terror as divine strategy. If we were to analyze this, what it means. It means a method of victory is not persuasion but intimidation. It means the Prophet didn't win hearts, he froze them. It means the glory of faith was tied not to truth but to fear. And once you make terror a divine strategy, you've built a religion where the holiest tool in the scariest is the scariest weapon. Think about the ripple effect of such a teaching. If the Prophet wins by terror, then his followers must also win by terror. And indeed, history testifies. History testifies. Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Hamas, what are they doing? Terror. They want to win with terror. They want to gain victory with terror. See, the aim of my videos in my channel is I want to show you that these terrorist organizations, the religion of the Sunni is this. There's one topic that is coming up that I'm going to talk about is, oh my God, it is the biggest shock to probably 1.8 billion Muslims out there. They have never even heard or know such a thing exists or was historically true in their religion. And I tell you this, most clerics and even sheikhs and scholars in this day and age, do not know anything about this topic that I'm going to bring up. And when should I make this? I want to make this topic, this particular, interesting, shocking, really shocking, sad topic to a lot of Muslims out there, and I mean Sunni Muslims, and I'm not just single, one party, like one Sunni, like Palestinians or Jordanians, or no, I'm talking about anyone who had believed this belief. This is particular belief. Come on, Oda, tell us. What are you trying to tell us? I want to know. We can't wait. Okay, I'll tell you. I'll tell you some of it. little bit of it. This upcoming topic that I want to tell you, and this is in relation of the belief of the Sunnah. I am out here to expose reality that has been hidden. Nobody wants to talk about. Some people even knew it, but they never don't. They don't want to wake the world upon it. Especially people like Hamas, Taliban, and etc. They don't want you to know this. They don't want you to know that the so-called Al-Quds in Palestine, Al-Quds in Palestine is not Palestinian Quds. You know that mosque that they are fighting with against the Jews? That is Jewish-owned mosque from day one. Now some will say, oh, this guy definitely works for the Jewish people, for Israeli, for Zionists. Believe me, you will hear some people say that about me. Maybe they'll even say I work for Australian government, that I am a spy. Those accusations will appear when there is no when the other party is unable to refute one thing that is actually in the very source of their own belief. Do their own sources say that Quds, the Mosque of Quds it's not the Mosque of Quds, it belongs to there is a rock, if you like, a stone, if you like. The Jewish people love this stone, and their worshipping and all that has to do a lot with this stone. We don't want to get into details. This stone is not Islamic owned, Arabian history belonging to the Muslims. No, no, no. This stone solely owned by the Jews. It's theirs from day one. Who built it? It was built by your second caliphate. So-called caliphate. He's not a caliphate. He's a low-life asshole. May the curse of Allah be upon him. La'natullahi on him. Umar ibn al-Khattab. He was the one who built this and placed the stone inside it, and then since then the conflict between Palestine and Israel started. But who it originated, who it actually originated to, who belonged to, it belonged to the Jews. It's theirs. Why I'm saying this, bringing this topic into this, because it's a fake religion, really, if you think about it. Nothing in this religion makes sense. And I mean nothing. Nothing is peaceful, nothing makes sense, nothing is what they say. Nothing. All they say is the opposite. Anything they claim, it's not theirs. Remember, the shadow of my spear. That's what they're doing to Al-Quds. The shadow of my spear is the provision. So, if you think about this, such a teaching, if the Prophet wins by terror, obviously then the people that came after him, the caliphates that came after him, which are the Umayyads, they ruled by terror. The Abbasids, they ruled by terror. the Ottomans, the Othmanians, or Ottomans they call them, they ruled by terror. Every tyrant who claimed the rule in the name of Islam found comfort in the hadith because it gave them a slogan. Our Prophet was given victory through terror, so we must terrorize too. We must terrorize because our Prophet used terrorism to gain victory. Therefore, we can use terrorism to gain victory. If you want to have a laugh about it, let me give you something that's funny. Imagine if this was marketed like a modern business. The slogan of Islam wouldn't be peace be upon you. It would be Islam powered by terror. The mosque would hand out flyers. Come join us. Membership benefits include free terror guaranteed victory and 10% of spoils of war. I want to laugh, but it's sad. Instead of prayer breads, the gift shop would sell terror starter kits. Did you get your terror starter kit? Oh, they're giving it for free now. Go get it quick. It sounds ridiculous. It sounds absurd. But that's exactly how absurd the narration is when you strip it of its religious packaging, when you start using your brain, when you think, when you start to analyze. You know, God gave you a brain to think, to analyze, to come up with your own final decision. Because unfortunately, in today's day and age, many of the Sunnis, they want someone to think for them. That's why if you ever have a debate with a Sunni, and the Sunnis are listening to me and they know, and they probably will laugh now, some of them. As soon as they listen to something like this, for example, the first thing they will do is this. And I kid you not. The first thing they will do is they'll go open their internet and search. How do you refute victory with terror, Sheikh Othman al-Khamis? They want someone to comfort them, to tell them, hey, no, don't worry about that guy, Oda, and his channel, the dominant, السلام, peace be upon him. No, don't worry, he's talking crap. The, 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 the Prophet came with terror, meaning that God gave terror, is that God, he sent angels who created terror in the hearts of the haters of Islam, that they were scared and feared. But did actually the Prophet scare them like a Baba Yaga? No. And then the Sunni will hear this and they will go, yes, that is more comforting now. I feel better. Yeah, that's what you want. You want someone to think it for you and give you an explanation so sweet it's going to make you sleep the night tight. But if you come back to order, this is what he's going to ask you. Where is the angel in the hadith? Huh? It didn't say there were angels. It didn't say Allah sent this and Allah sent messages and texts and Allah called them on the phone and scared them, and it didn't say that. It says, the Prophet says, I gain victory with terror. I terrorized my enemies in order for me to win. I became a terrorist for me to be able to win. It doesn't say angels and this and that. It doesn't say. So your Sheikh Uthman al-Khamis or whoever is full of crap. If he comes to face order, he will never face order. You know why? Because he knows he's going to get stuck. He knows he's somewhere along the lines. He's going to be like, but, but, or he's going to start making excuses. He's going to write, just a second, I have a phone call. Can I get my phone call and then we will continue our discussion? And that's because he wants to call his scholars and friends to help him, to give him some answers. So don't fall into that nonsense, because there is no escape. So what would be the human cost? Behind the comedy is a tragic reality. When terror becomes the method of victory, um, uh, ordinary people become the victims. Villages lived in fear, mothers trembled, children grew up hearing stories of the army of terror sweeping through towns. Because terror doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care if you're guilty or innocent. It doesn't care if you're a warrior or a farmer. Terror paints everyone with the same brush. That's terror. That's terrorism for you. Now, although I don't really have to contrast this with the Shia, I don't really have to put it in comparison, because the Hadith itself, by itself, is a terrorizing, is a terrorist ideology, really. There's no need to say, hey, I want to compare terrorism with peace. There's no need for that. But still, I still want to give you something from the Shia narration. Um, Actually, you know what? I don't want to compare it with my prophet, because why should I compare terrorism with peace? Why should I compare this idiot, pedophiling, child molesting, womanizing, warmongering prophet with this prophet here? Peace and love and passion and compassion and divine and everything else. A creator of the universe, created by the universe, by Allah, by His God. The given, power from Allah to create the universe. This prophet here, Prophet Muhammad. And this one here, created as a weak, stupid, illiterate human being. Created from light, created from dust. There is no comparison between these two. I do not want to compare peace and harmony and love. A prophet that says, I came to complete morality. I came to complete the best of morality. And this prophet here says, I came to terrorize. I came with the provision of the shadow of my spear. I was commanded to kill everyone. I brought a sword, and until all people worship no one but Allah, His God. Now again, this Allah here has absolutely nothing to do with Allah here. It's difference. Yes, Allah is needy. He sometimes even scrolls down from the skies and he gets down on a donkey. Oh, come on, are you serious? This is a narration? Yes, it is. It's a narration in the Sunni hadith, Sunni book. And it's authentic. This God comes down from the sky, I don't know, by elevator, by escalators. He gets down, he jumps on a donkey, etc., etc. We will get to those narrations, those funny, hilarious narrations. Whereas this God here is needless to do anything. So let's try the logic of it. Let's think logically about this, right? If a prophet's victory depends on a terror, what happens when the terror stops? Do people still believe or do they scatter? If faith is rooted in fear, then it's not faith at all, it's survival. A survival can flip from the moment a stronger terror arrives. In other words, this prophet comes and he says, I won with terrorizing the people. I won, I have victory. But what if a stronger terrorism, stronger organizing terrorist organization comes that can overpower this prophet? What happens then? You will immediately leave the Islamic religion and leave the password, even forget that password, no matter how many hints you will get to it, which is there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is messenger of Allah. You will leave that and you will get to the new terror, whatever that new terror is. Biscuit is the God. Uh, uh, the crop of the camel is the God. Hey, if it's a new sword here, stronger, more powerful than this prophet, he puts it on the neck and says, "I'll take your, you know, I'll cut your throat," or you will say, "There is no God but the biscuit." Hey, there is no God but the biscuit, and the tea is the messenger of biscuit. That's what happens. You know, the history of the defections, the rebellions, and even the betrayals under the Sunni caliphates. Because terror work fast, but it doesn't last. Fear controls today, but love inspires tomorrow. A terror knows nothing of love. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. There's no such thing of love. They'll mock love. Terrorists like Hamas and the rest of it, they don't understand love. They'll even mock it. Imagine being a villager, again in the 7th century, let's say, or 8th century, 9th, 10th century, if you like. In the 10th century of Arabia. You wake up one morning, feed your animals, prepare your um, prepare your bread. Suddenly, someone runs into the village shouting, "They're coming! They're coming! The army of terror is on its way!" What would you do? You pack your things, you hide your children, and you whisper the Shahada just to stay alive. You would say there is no God but, but God, there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, because you want to stay alive. But in reality, deep in your heart, do you love this God? Do you cherish the Prophet? No. You resent them. You fear them. You might obey them, but only until you find a chance to escape. And that would be a legacy of faith built on terror. Outward obedience, inward rejection. Outward obedience, inward rejection. I love that. I love things that I say sometimes. I feel they must be written down. Let's, so here's my next hadith. Okay, I'm just reading through the hadith, trying to analyze it. So this our next discussion is going to be about war is a deceit. War is a deceit. That's what the Prophet says. Now I'm not making anything up. You need to understand that this is all coming from the actual book of Bukhari and Muslim. Now, some people might say, but war is a deceit. People use all sorts of methods in war. Yes, I agree. Even Even sometimes war can be psychological war, it can be deceiving war, it can be everything is used in a war against your enemy. Use your all powers, your all, trick your enemies, deceive them, etc. That's war. That's war. Anyone who studies in the university in the academies um, what do you call them? The armies and etc., that they will learn that in a war you have to use every mythology you have, everything you can do in a war to be victorious, but not terror. You don't go terrorize people, and I'm here, and I mean innocent people. That's what no university will ever teach you to do, except for the Sunni. There is one university that will teach you that, as we clarified. But in the case of this, war is a deceit when they're not talking in a defensive manner. They're talking in an attacking manner. As we clarified that in the previous hadiths, all the previous hadiths show that they are all attacking manners, not defensive. They're not being defensive, they're not being just, they're not being, you know, what's, um, so they're not being defensive, they're not being just, they're not being last resort as a war, definitely not being the last resort as a war, but rather they're being attacking, attack, conquer, take, invade, etc. So war is deceit in the manner of go fight them until they say there is no God but God. That's you just started a war because you were commanded. You have to go fight people even if they're peaceful. They haven't harmed you, but you have to go harm them because they have to come to your religion. So when that war starts, one of the terms will be war is a deceit. Not in a defensive manner, not when you're being attacked by the other opponent. You can use all methods to defend yourself, because you have to defend yourself, defend your country, defend your innocent people, defend everything that you have. But when you are attacking, that's unjustifiable. That's just you're being a terrorist. And all these tactics are tactics of a terrorist. So war is a deceit. Uh, like I said, it's not a defense. It's not a last resort. It's simple. It's simply declared. War is a deceit. So to put this into an example or an argument, if you like, imagine you're a judge. You hear general walk into your courtroom and say, Your Honor, I just want to make it clear, in my battles, lying, cheating, trickery, betrayal, it's a fair game. Because, as my Prophet said, war is deceit. That's what Hamas is doing, by the way. That's what Ali al-Khamenei is doing, the Iranian leader, who is so-called Shia. They're using that. They are being deceitful, they're being liars, they betray their own. Ali al-Khamenei betrayed his own allies, one of which was Hassan Nasrallah, another idiot, another lowlife, another bastard who went and probably is now sucking on from the boobies of Mama Aisha. May crap and hypocrisy be upon them. La'natullahi on Hassan Nasrallah. That's another deceivable, low-life, useless idiot who was betrayed by his own ally, which is Ali al-Khamenei. They were allies, and they had a treaty, and the treaty says that if one goes to war, the other goes to war. And when Hassan Nasrallah went to war with Israel, Iran back then didn't do anything. Now, I'm not saying they should. I'm totally against it, absolutely, but who started the war with Hassan Nasrallah? Was it Israel? Or was it Hassan Nasrallah? It's Hassan Nasrallah. He started the war, not Israel. And the problem is when you start the war, you're not the defender. You are the attacker. You are the invader. You are the conqueror. You are the one going with the spear and the, looking for a provision with the of the spear, of the shadow and of your spear. Is Hassan Nasrallah Sunni Muslim so we can... No, he wasn't. He was so-called Shia, the follower of he explains Ahlulbayt, the family of the Prophet. Do the family of the Prophet agree to what Hassan Nasrallah did? Absolutely not. And even that I will prove with very unrefutable, strong references, one of which is from Imam al-Mahdi, our 12th Imam, peace and blessings be upon him. Imam al-Mahdi says, during my absence, now listen to this narration. I'm going to show you how Hassan Nasrallah is a criminal in the eyes of the family of the Prophet. So and so is what's his name? Ali Khamenei. They're both criminals in the eyes of Ahlul Bayt, of the family of the Prophet. Why? Because Imam al-Mahdi, the final Imam, says, during my absence, because today Imam al-Mahdi is absent. He's not dead, he's absent. Nobody knows where he is. So Imam al-Mahdi says, during my absence, you are not allowed to go to war. You are to avoid it. I will get into deeper details later on, inshallah, into this. But Imam al-Mahdi says, you are not allowed to go to war. Let alone, in the Shia belief, if your enemy is stronger than you, and you know damn well that your enemy is stronger than you, then you should never start that war. And in this case, Hassan Nasrallah made the Jews and the Israelis and all enemies. Now, I'm not going to get into the political side. Are they enemies or are they not? That's political. That's not religious. It's political, it's not religious. Religion doesn't say Jews are enemies. It doesn't. That's why it is political, it's not religious. Like I said, Imam Ali says either you're brother in religion or you're equal in humanity. So are the Jews enemies of Shia Muslims? No. That's something that Hassan Nasrallah and Ali Khamenei made up of their own singular religion that has nothing to do with Ahlul Bayt, with the family of the Prophet. So Imam al-Mahdi commanded, if your enemy, and here the enemy is someone who is attacking you, or who is trying to start a war against you, You are to avoid it at all means. Your best, try to solve it with negotiations, with peace treaty, with whatever. Last resort is war. Should not ever come to that, ever, because Imam al-Mahdi commanded, do not go to war. Hassan Nasrallah went to war. Ali Khamenei went to war. Is that what the family of the Prophet says? No. So do you see how they are so-called Shia, but they are not Shia really, if you think about it? So going back to our discussion, we said that imagine you are a judge and someone walks into your room and says, I have to, Your Honor, I just want to clarify myself by saying that in my battles I lied, I cheated, etc. And it was all fair game because my Prophet said war is deceit. Would you acquit this man, or would you call him a war criminal? Because in every modern system of law, deceit in war is not celebrated. It's condemned. There are treaties, conventions, agreements, spies, and tricksters are often executed when caught. But in this hadith, deceit is elevated to a prophecy or prophetic wisdom. Picture a soldier under this teaching. He sharpens his sword, straps his armor, and his commander says, remember, lads, today is not about honor, it's about deceit. So lie, cheat, betray. The more tricky, the holier it is. And the soldier nods. He then sneaks into a village pretending to be a merchant. He gains trust, and then attacks. And when he attacks at night, because obviously he wouldn't attack during the day, because that would be not deceit, it would be the opposite of it. He poisons wells. He promises safety. He then slaughters anyway. And when asked, he quotes, well, the Prophet says war is deceit. Does that sound like a religion? Or does it sound like a organized crime with a disguise? This wasn't just a theory, it was used in practice. Trickery became a tactic of early conquests. Treaties were broken, cities were deceived, promises of safety were betrayed. When you normalize deceit as holy, betrayal becomes policy. And once betrayal becomes policy, trust is dead. Like, again, when I say it, in a defense manner, when you are attacked with terrorists, you are excused for defeating them. Use anything against those terrorists because they don't understand other than kill you. Kill your children, kill your women, rape your women, enslave them, destroy your cities. They don't have rules that go by, for example, fight only those who hold weapons, which in the terms of army against army, it can be justified because one armed man against another armed man. They don't go against armies that are armed. They go against non-armed. They go against civilians, innocent people, innocent children, terrorists. So to gain victory against such organizations, use any means. You're not fighting an honorable other side human being. You're fighting not even an animal, because animals have feelings. The beautiful, a lot of animals are very beautiful. They care for each other. This, I don't know what to describe them with. Aliens, no, I don't know. I've never met an alien. I would say those are 10 times probably worse than aliens. They're heartless. They have no hearts. They have no. So how did you don't fight them by, if you are at the war, but when a war starts, and you know you're fighting another party that has rules and laws and it does respect criminal laws and all the rest of it, you should never come to war. That should never be the case in the first place. I'm not here to justify or teach how to have a war, two countries, how they should have war. No, God forbid. I am not here to do that. Not at all. I am here to, again, to expose the true terrorism of this organization. But I do say it out loud, and I am responsible for what I say. If you are fighting against a terrorist organization, like Hamas, Taliban, the rest of them, at the end of the day, you need to use war deceit. Yeah, use their own game against them, because they will use it against you. They have no heart, nothing. They don't have laws. They don't have such a thing that's called criminal laws, war laws, war criminal laws. They don't have that. And why? Because of that prophet. May the biggest sandals and shoes and crap and everything bad be upon him. Said them. I condemn, let me be clear, because I did say this before, but let me be clear. I condemn any organization on planet Earth, no matter where you come from. If you kill one innocent human being, you're a criminal. Period. And you need to be brought to justice. You need to be brought to you need to have a trial. And a person like you, the world is a lot safer without you. Anyone that kills justifies the killing. Even those who have not killed people, but yet they support the killing of the innocent people, even those ones. The world without you is a better place. Let's cross-examine this hadith as if we were in a courtroom. Let me ask a question. If war is deceit, then what about peace? Can peace also be deceit? If so, then treaties mean nothing. If not, then how do you transition from deceitful war to honest peace? And the answer? You cannot. Because once deceit is acceptable, it infects everything. Let's ask another question. If the Prophet used to deceit in war, then why wouldn't his followers use deceit in politics, in trade, in marriage, in religion? Actually, I remembered something about marriage. The Sunnis do actually use deceit in marriage. They have this marriage that is called a marriage with the intention of divorce. That's the name of the actual marriage. Marriage with the intention of divorce. What is the condition of that marriage? See, I actually just remembered that. Just when I asked that question, I remembered it. What is the intention, the condition of that marriage? Is if you marry a woman and you are intending to divorce her, the condition strictly says the woman must not know that you are intending to divorce her. Otherwise, the marriage fails. Otherwise, God, Sunni God, does not approve the marriage. So we can see deceit is even in marriages in this stupid religion. So the answer to this question is, if we look at the caliphs, the betrayals, the assassinations, the double dealing, the disease spread everywhere. So yes, they did. Imagine if Gandhi said, non-violence is deceit. Gandhi. I think most of you know who Gandhi is. Imagine if he said non-violence is deceit. Imagine if Martin Luther King Jr. had said, I have dream. Uh, I have a dream of tricking the other side. Would anyone respect them? No. They'd laugh. They'd dismiss them. But somehow when Sunni books attribute deceit to their prophet, it's not laughed. It's memorized, taught and repeated, respected, honored to deceit. Now to all Sunnis out there, Just stop for a minute and think. Religion is supposed to elevate us, to bring out honesty, honor, dignity. But what do you think this narration does? It drags us into mud, saying, don't fight with truth, fight with trickery. It replaces ethics, it replaces tactics, justice with cunning, sincerity with fraud. Let me bring up what Ahlulbayt says about this. Imam Ali, the first successor of the Prophet Muhammad in the Shia, look what he says about war. By Allah, I would never betray, nor would I ever be betrayed. I will not deceive, nor will I allow deception in war. Deception may be the work of the treacherous, but not of the honorable. So Imam Ali denies war to deceit in war. Although I said earlier, I said that you can do it against terrorists, apparently you cannot. So I withdraw my saying that you should do it, even with terrorists. I actually withdraw that. Because I just read, by Allah, I would never betray, nor would I ever be betrayed. I will not deceive, nor will I allow deception in war. Deception may be the work of the treacherous, but not of the honorable. So no, do not use war. Do not deceit in war at all, not even with the worst of your enemies. Deceit is treachery in the eyes of Imam Ali. Deceit is treachery. I think here I am going to end this video. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الخالقين الرازقين مشيئة رب العالمين الذي فوض لهم كل شيء ذات الله ونفسه ويده وعينه على عباده ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين.